Well, the summer job just seems so yesterday. One 13-year-old girl is projected to make about $2 million this year, thanks to her brilliant idea for healthy candy. Alina Morse was just 7 years old when she came up with the concept of Zollipops, lollipops that actually strengthen your tooth enamel. It took her 2 years to develop the product. Now, Zollipops are sold in major retail chains like Walmart and Whole Foods. Alina, good for you. And that's how Fox reports this Saturday, June 23rd of 2018. I'm John Scott. Thanks for joining us tonight. Watters World starts right now.
Welcome to Watters World. I'm Jesse Watters. The lying left, that is the subject of tonight's Watters Words. What happened this week was a refresher for how dishonest the left is and their lapdogs in the media. To recap, the Obama policy on the border was catch and release. You got caught crossing, the feds released you and told you to show up at a court at a later date. But the illegals just skipped the hearings and went unchecked into the country. This policy actually encouraged illegal immigration. So Trump was elected to secure the border. It's what the voters wanted. So he enacted a zero-tolerance policy at the border. When you get caught crossing, the feds detain you, process you, and deport you back to your home country. But if you bring a minor, you're briefly separated for a day or two, and then reunited, and then deported. But if you bring a minor and can't prove you're related, the feds will separate and investigate if you're a child trafficker or human smuggler. And if you bring a minor and claim asylum, the law says the feds can't hold a minor longer than 20 days, at which point they must send the child to a family member, a sponsor, or a foster family in the interior of the country until the asylum claims are adjudicated. And that can take forever. And that was a Clinton-era arrangement that was upheld by the liberal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Obama did the same thing. Trump just did it at a higher rate because all border crossers now are being prosecuted. CNN asked Senator Baldwin about the hypocrisy.
So many people in this country are certainly outraged by the cages and the thermal blankets and the facilities housing these kids. You know, they were all there in 2014 under President Obama. And my question to you, Senator Baldwin, is did you speak up against them then?
You know, on this issue that we get into a moment where we're making progress, and then when it stalls, we turn around. I think we all need to continue to be focused on it and press it through.
What was that, Senator? Was that even English? I have no idea what you just said. And for the record, the Democrats don't want to solve problems. They want to blame problems on Trump and do nothing about it. How do I know this? Senator Ted Cruz released a standalone bill that would keep families together during detention, and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats wouldn't vote on it because they wanted to, quote, keep the focus on Trump. Makes you wonder if the elected Democrats really care at all about the migrant kids. And Jimmy Kimmel led the charge on Late Night.
Just when you thought we couldn't go any lower as a nation, we have, I'm sure you've seen the heartbreaking and horrific images of families literally being torn apart thanks to the Trump administration and their zero-tolerance immigration policy.
Now, Congress makes immigration law, not the president. But Democrats in Congress refused to act, so President Trump had to step up and sign an executive order, which the next president can undo, urging federal agents to keep illegal immigrant families together at the border and deport them together.
We're going to keep families together, but the border is going to be just as tough as it's been. Democrats don't care about the impact of uncontrolled migration on your communities, your schools, your hospitals, your jobs, or your safety. Democrats put illegal immigrants before they put American citizens. What the hell is going on?
So families stay together and we still have a border. Everyone's happy, right? Wrong.
Thanks to this new order, instead of being separated, families from other countries will be locked up together, hopefully starting with his.
So the left is never happy. This was never about policy. It was about political point scoring. No matter what Trump does, he'll be attacked by the media, even if he does good things for America. Remember when Donald Trump ran for president, he promised to bomb the hell out of ISIS, and the media criticized him?
Dropping bombs, first of all, you got to have targets to drop bombs on. It's an applause line for people who have never been there and have never seen what it's like.
And when Trump defeated the ISIS caliphate, instead of reporting on his successful military strategy, here was the headline: 3/4 of unintentional civilian deaths in Iraq and Syria have occurred during the Trump presidency. And remember when the media went after President Trump for not going to Puerto Rico soon enough after the hurricane and handing out supplies?
The lame, pathetic excuse for a president that is Donald Trump is tweeting about the NFL while Americans are dying and while Americans are in this level of need. He should be talking about one thing and one thing only: Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico.
Well, when he did go, they didn't like how he handed out supplies.
This was a PR 17-minute meeting. There was no exchange with anybody, with none of the mayors. And in fact, this terrible and abominable view of him throwing paper towels and throwing provisions at people, it's really, it does not embody the spirit of the American nation.
Trump was savaged for his strong stance on North Korea.
This commander-in-chief has anger and hostility and bellicose rhetoric and things that are not helpful when we're dealing with an adversary like North Korea.
Then, when the president engaged in the exact diplomacy the media was pleading for, this was framed as a loss.
A summit is not an accomplishment for the American president, Brian. It is a major accomplishment for Kim Jong-un.
And finally, the Trump economy.
There is nothing unprecedented about President Trump's first 6 months in office, economically anyway.
Now that the unemployment rate dropped to the lowest it's been in almost 20 years, we hear this.
Hip, hip, hooray, unemployment is down. What does that mean to me in my life?
So the lesson here is the left-wing media is not covering Donald Trump fairly. We've proven it. Do not trust them. They won't tell you the truth. Joining me now, Ed Henry is here to break it all down.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Ed. What do you think about my brilliant commentary?
I mean, it's so hard to improve on anything you say. I think what you left out, though, is look, in terms of the immigrant story and the migrant children, this was something that the president and his administration brought on themselves. I mean,
because of the zero tolerance policy.
That they stepped up to show that they were being tougher. Jeff Sessions.
To be tougher.
To be tougher and crack down on illegal immigration.
Right.
You're right, he got elected on that. But then when the heat got a little hot, they decided to pull back. Jeff Sessions this week did an interview saying, we never intended to separate these families. Wait a second. Jeff Sessions was at the border himself a few weeks ago announcing the stepped-up policy of separating families.
You're right. They did not communicate the strategy and the policy as effectively as they could have. But the policy is pretty clear. You don't let people come across willy-nilly without prosecuting, detaining them, and then deporting them back. If they bring a migrant, you have to determine whether that child is being trafficked or not. And in order to do that, you do have to separate that child.
Something Hillary Clinton suggested a few years back when we had a lot of kids coming from Central America. She did an interview with Christiane Amanpour on CNN where she was saying, you got to crack down because if you let the kids in, it sends a signal they can send more. So when the shoe's on the other foot, Democrats don't like it. And by the way, when you talk about dishonesty, why does Time Magazine, where I will agree with you, contrary to a moment ago, Time Magazine puts on the cover this crying child with the president standing over her. And in fact, this kid was never separated from her mom.
Yeah, so this kid, this 2-year-old child, was from Central America, and this image was used by the media and by Democrats to show that this policy of the president's, when people were being separated, was mean and harsh and cruel. It turns out the child never separated from the mother. The mother was previously deported. The mother was not claiming asylum. She was going there for a better economic opportunity. And the mother took the child away from the father, left the other kids in Central America. The father had no idea this was even happening.
So if the policy was so bad, why can't the media, by and large, stick with facts? Why do they have to come up with fake news?
The whole week, in a week and a half on this story, they haven't covered the facts. They willfully didn't cover the facts just to make the president look bad. They should have reported the policies that were in place. They should have reported the Obama policies that were in place, but they didn't.
The president had his rally in Minnesota this week. He said something that I think he can carry into the midterms, which is he made the charge that Democrats care sometimes more about illegal immigrants than citizens. Ask the family of Kate Steinle with sanctuary cities that are defended time and time again.
Kate Steinle was separated from her family by a bullet fired by an illegal immigrant who was deported 5 times.
That the president is on the right side when he's talking about enforcing laws, which is pretty obvious, pretty basic. He got elected on that, and cracking down on illegal immigration. The problem is when you put the kids in the middle of it, it enables Democrats and the media to exploit the policy in a way that blows up in his face.
And
they probably should have thought through that part.
I agree.
A whole lot more.
It was not well handled.
But big picture,
in the
illegal
beginning.
immigration is a strong issue for him.
It is a strong issue, and the Democrats think they can run on these child migrants, but I don't think that's necessarily going to move votes because it doesn't affect the average citizen. Yes, it's sad, it tugs at your heartstrings, but it's not like gas prices, it's not like taking away your health care, it's not like jobs. It may make you feel bad for the moment, but this isn't a major issue that I think people, especially independents, are going to be voting for in November.
And by signing the executive order, the president may have taken these images off the table, number one.
Yes.
And number two, the bigger issue, I think, is why leaders in his own party can't deliver on basic immigration
Republicans
reform.
in the House can't even get anything out.
So how can they go to the voters in November and say, keep us in power because we're going to build the wall?
Yeah.
They're not doing it.
Obama had supermajorities when he was there. They did nothing on immigration.
Reform and didn't.
Now they have control over Congress and the Senate. Republicans can't do a thing on immigration. Ed, we're the only ones that can get things done.
You're the man. You're the one who
That
gets
was the
things
smartest thing you said all day. Thanks very much.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, the president calling out Democrats for using immigration to distract from the corruption revealed this week at the Department of Justice and the FBI. Listen to this.
You look at the corruption. Did you ever see anything like it, really? That's why they're building up immigration, so you can't see what's going on in Congress. They want to stay on immigration where Obama had bigger problems than anybody, where Bush had problems, where they want to stay on immigration because they don't want to go into the halls of Congress, which has totally revealed the Russian scam that's going on.
The president pointing specifically to the lead agent in both the Clinton and Russia probes, Peter Strzok, who was mentioned approximately 600 times in the IG report. This week, Strzok was escorted from FBI headquarters and stripped of his clearance. So what does that mean for the Russia investigation? Joining me now, former Trump advisor Roger Stone. Roger, I was watching this IG hearing and Trey Gowdy really just tearing into these people up there. Listen to Trey, what he had to say.
There were FBI agents and attorneys who decided to prejudge the outcome of the Hillary Clinton case before the investigation ended. I want you to let that sink in for a second. They prejudged the outcome of the Hillary Clinton investigation before the investigation ended, and these exact same FBI agents and attorneys prejudged the outcome of the Russia investigation before it even began. That is textbook bias.
So you have biased investigators running wild, and now you're caught up in the middle of all this stuff. You nervous?
No, not really. I hope the House Intelligence Committee can get to the bottom of why the Comey FBI ran a paid informant who was a Russian national, admitted to the country on an informant visa, in on me in May of 2016 in an attempt to entrap me and compromise Donald Trump. I rejected the offer.
What was the offer?
Michael Caputo, my longtime associate, was working for Trump, contacted me and said a man named Henry Greenberg, that turns out to be an alias, has information that would be valuable to the Trump campaign. I agreed to meet with him. When I met with him for 20 minutes in South Florida, he said, I want to sell you documents. Actually, didn't say documents. He said information on Hillary Clinton. It'll cost you $2 million.
What'd you say?
A, I don't have $2 million. B, if I did, I wouldn't pay for information. He laughed and said, it's not your money I want, it's Donald Trump's money. Gave away the game. Now, this guy has been admitted, he's a Russian national, which I admit I forgot, but the meeting's inconsequential. Nothing improper or illegal happens. The Washington Post correctly...
So you have a Russian national, former FBI informant...
Or probably current FBI
Current former, that's to be determined, coming at you in 2016, offering paid dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Right. He is a convicted violent felon, spent 10 years in jail in Russia, so technically shouldn't be able to get in the country. The Miami Bureau of the FBI has sponsored him on an informant's visa on 9 previous occasions. This is all happening at about the time that the Australian ambassador is not bumping into, but meeting with George Papadopoulos.
Okay, so yes, this is another instance of an FBI-connected individual running games at the Trump campaign. And this is also around the same time where Loretta Lynch, the Obama AG, allowed the Russian lawyer a special visa grant to come into this country and meet the Trumps at Trump Tower. And then remember, she met with the Fusion GPS president before and after that meeting. You know, it adds up to a lot of Obama people throwing individuals at the Trump people fishing, and I don't think they caught anything. In fact, they caught nothing, yet they're still turning the screws to the Trump campaign a year and a half afterwards.
Well, the Democrats would like to talk about the fact that I honestly didn't remember this, not the fact that the guy is FBI connected, that he's a paid informant, and that nothing of consequence happens at the meeting. Along with Steph Halper, along with the Papadopoulos situation, yeah, I think it was a setup. It was a sting.
Yeah,
and
also,
it failed.
It was a failed sting, potentially. Also, at the same time, we have Susan Rice's cyber chief, and he testifies that Susan Rice, Obama National Security Advisor, told him to stand down in 2016 on Russia interference in our election. Listen to this.
But as far as your cyber response, you were told to stand down. Is that correct?
We were, those actions were put on the back burner, yes.
That is huge news, and the media did not report that this week. All they wanted to talk about was Melania's jacket. I think this is just devastating.
Well, what's amazing, Jesse, is there is Russian collusion in the 2016 election. The $145 million that the Russian energy company pays to the Clinton Foundation, the $500,000 that Bill takes for a speech, the fact that John and Tony Podesta are making millions from the oligarchs around Putin in banking, in gas, in uranium. There's your collusion. It's right there for everybody to see. Yeah. Instead, we're running FBI stings on Trump operatives.
Well, Donald Trump never took $500,000 to speak in Moscow. I know that. And his foundation, the Trump Foundation, also did not take over $100 million in Russia-connected money. So, you know, we talked about it earlier on the show. There's a complete double standard with how the media treats this president compared to how the former president was treated. And I don't think that's ever going to change because I think they're so invested in his defeat that they will not allow any good news out there to the American people because they're afraid of him getting reelected.
That's why we call it the Russian collusion delusion.
All right, Roger, thank you very much. And later, Waters World goes back and hits the streets. What does Congress do?
Up the world.
I'm going to give that one to you. Yeah. The left has become completely unhinged this week on immigration law that separates families at the border.
Just think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight.
Donald Trump increasingly looks like Hitler in Nazi Germany.
Families are being torn apart. Who in America could do this?
It is ugly, it is child abuse, it's a human rights abuse, and he should be ashamed of himself. And people that support him should be ashamed of themselves.
Joining me now with a reaction, contributor at The Federalist, Britt McHenry, the founding publisher of Catalina Magazine, Kathy Aru, and Anna Polina, an Air Force veteran and conservative activist. All right, Anna Polina, I mean, this was a really disgusting display from the left in the media, comparing everybody who wants border enforcement to Hitler. What do you think about that?
I'll start out by saying what I've always believed, that secured border saves lives all the way around. To compare what's going on at the border without the facts and making such demonizing statements is not only damaging to the United States as a whole, but it's damaging to so many people that have actually gone through the atrocities of what happened during World War II.
It is. It really kind of lessens the tragedy there in Germany in the 30s and the 40s. And someone spoke out about this. The Border Patrol union president in the Tucson sector, Art Del Cueto, pretty just disgusted with being compared to some sort of, stormtrooper. Listen to what he had to say.
It is sickening that certain members of the media have chosen to attack our president. It is sickening that certain members of the media have chosen to attack Border Patrol agents and describe us as Nazis. Agents that I know, that I've worked with, myself included, go out there to that field numerous times with our own food that we buy, toys, clothes, and everything else, so we can assist some of these people that we arrest in the border. To compare us to Nazis is a whole new low.
Britt, that needed to be said, and I just found this out today. Half of our Border Patrol agents are Hispanic.
Yeah, and I just want to know, where are the tears in April of 2016 under the Obama administration, when now we're finding out immigrant children as young as 14 had bags over their head, were chained up in the Shenandoah Valley Juvenile Center? We have had long-standing immigration problems, and for these Border Control agents, they also have to deal with, Jesse, as Homeland Security pointed out, a 300% increase in adults unrelated to immigrant children
Fake
trying to
family
traffic them.
units.
Yeah.
They're rushing the border because they're trying to take advantage of the catch and release soft border policy, Kathy. Don't you think the Democratic policy on the border is actually pro-cartel?
Pro-cartel?
Because they're the ones making money off the coyotes. They're the ones smuggling the drugs when it's such an open border. They're the only ones benefiting.
The Democrats are benefiting from the drugs and coyotes and...
No, I'm saying the cartels are.
The cartels?
Because the border is not being enforced.
Well, we're talking the southern border. That's what we're all concerned about. The southern border, nothing about the northern border, nothing about our other borders.
Are you worried about the Canadians
yes, I'm worried about
coming
the Canadians.
across?
I'm worried about the terrorists that come from Canada.
Do we have a
about all
crisis
our
on the northern border with Canada that I don't know about?
Well, we don't have terrorists trying to come through the northern border. I mean, all our borders should be secure if we're going to talk about borders.
I agree,
so
but the last time I checked, there aren't massive, unchecked hordes of illegal immigrants pouring from north to south.
There's no hordes coming from south to north. I mean,
there's hundreds of thousands of people crossing.
This is an exaggeration.
Anna Paulina, go ahead.
Hold on. My husband fought 5 combat tours overseas, and you're going to school us on what it's like to actually deal with terrorist organizations? The threat of immigration and what's happening currently in the United States is being completely blown out of proportion for a few reasons. If you want to talk about statistics, the DEA is reporting that in Arizona alone, there's over $100 million drug organization coming in illegally into this country. Drugs, cartel, and I saw your article that you did on MS-13 just being a gang. They are sending coyotes, and they're working for the Sinaloa cartel, and if you're saying something else, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. These are damaging children and women, and for you to say that you're feminist is terrible.
Yeah, Kathy.
I don't recall writing an article about
the people that bring children across the border. I know a lot of the times they're trying to do what's best for their family, but that is a dangerous, dangerous trek, and they're putting their child in jeopardy. And to come across that valley and put a $5,000 price tag on their head from a smuggler, and then half the time they have to work that debt off once the child reaches a sponsor family. That's human trafficking.
Well, luckily, it's at an all-time low. Immigration is at an all-time low.
It is not at an all-time low.
Yes, we're at a net zero right now. Our biggest problem with immigration was about 20, 30 years ago. The economy in Mexico is better than ever.
The State Department is reporting 18,000 women are being brought into this country. That is modern-day slavery.
It's been a worse problem in the past. This is not the worst it's been.
I don't think that's a good argument that it's not as worse as it's been. Britt, I always consider this kind of like an airport, all right? If you have an airport in this country, you come in, you show your ID, they check you out, they say where you're from, where you're coming from. That's how it should be in the southern border. Instead, you can just come across. No one asks for your ID. There's no barrier there. Don't you think the rest of the country should be as secure as our airports?
Absolutely. You know, look, children should be with their families, but Democrats have all these feelings and they have no solutions to it. And that's the problem. The goalpost keeps moving. You give an inch, President Trump signed the executive order. Now, all of a sudden, you saw in the media, let's just take everybody. Let everybody come in. It's a privilege to be an American. It's a privilege to live in this country, and we don't have open borders. You need to enforce it. And this has become, in my opinion, if you look at Time magazine with the Photoshop photo of the little girl and President Trump, and now the father of that girl saying, she wasn't separated from her mother.
But she was sad. She was sad, and she was at a detention center.
That's fake news. It's a completely different issue.
She existed, she was there, and she was sad because her mother wasn't separated from her. It's a different story. She was there, she was sad.
Her mother was trying to find work.
All right. Listen, I don't think we're ever going to solve the crisis if the Democrats don't agree that we have borders in this country. And if you don't enforce those borders, you don't have a country.
Northern borders as well as southern.
Okay, watch out for those Canadians. Here they come.
All right,
across
ladies.
the board. It saves lives for Americans, and it saves lives for us here. And the Mexicans as well.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Up next, President Trump creating a space force, but a space pacifist is here to debate me about that in a world exclusive.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Robert Gray. Thousands of people rallying across the country, speaking out against the separation of immigrant parents and their children. The demonstrations come despite President Trump's executive order earlier this week that reversed the practice. In recent weeks, more than 2,300 children were taken from their parents under a zero-tolerance policy. More protests are planned for next weekend in states from Connecticut to California. Minneapolis police shooting to death an armed suspect earlier tonight. It happened following several 911 calls, with concerned people saying the suspect was firing off a 9mm handgun. Police caught up to the man and a foot chase ensued. The suspect was shot and pronounced dead at the scene. Police say no one else was injured. I'm Robert Gray. Now back to Waters World.
Prepare to attack. Prepare to attack on the count of 3. 1, 2, late. What happened? Where are they? I don't know, sir. They must have hyperjets on that thing. And what do we got on this thing? A Cuisinart?
That was a scene from Spaceballs, and life may be imitating art now. The President Trump has ordered the DoD to boldly go where no man has gone before, ordering the creation of a space force.
My new national strategy for space recognizes that space is a warfighting domain, just like the land, air, and sea. When it comes to defending America, it is not enough to merely have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance in space.
But not everybody is thrilled about the militarization of space. So far, those opposed include the Klingons, Romulans, and members of Asgardia, the self-titled first space nation right here on Earth. Lena DeWin is Deputy Head of Administration of Asgardia, and she joins me now. So, Lena, you are a member of Asgardia, which is a space nation, yet you live here on Earth.
Indeed, I am a proud member of Asgardia, the first in human history space nation.
Okay, so the members of your nation live on Earth. Have you ever
live on Earth so far?
Okay, so you plan on later going into space and living?
Everybody inevitably will be moving to the other planets. It's been discussed since the dawn of cosmonautics, since great philosophers and visionaries of the M19's beginning of the 20th century.
Okay, so your plan is to eventually lead your people into space and live there. Now, if you're living in space, do you think you might need protection?
Of course, protection is needed everywhere.
Okay, good. So the Space Force that Donald Trump is now launching would provide that protection.
Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. We as Guardia are open to the whole world, and every earthling, just by the mere fact that is born on Earth, can belong to Asgardia. We believe in equality for all people living anywhere in the world. So I have no problem with protection. Everybody needs protection. We need, however, to make equal protection to every citizen of the Earth.
Live long and prosper.
Okay, well, the way it works on Earth is the United States usually controls the seas, controls the air, and allows for the peaceful interaction of citizens in their own countries. Now, where the problems arise is when the United States does not take a direct role and protect people. Wouldn't you like America, of all the countries in the world, to provide that type of protection in space, not only from, you know, people fighting in space, but maybe from aliens?
Let me put this in somewhat different perspective, because honestly, first of all, I'm not sure how serious you are when you are saying that only America provides peace on Earth. There are other countries in the world.
Who else provides for peace on Earth?
A variety of countries, but it's not the topic of our discussion.
Well, I'm just like, does Saudi Arabia protect everybody in the Middle East, or does America?
I'm not an expert on Middle East. However, I'm an expert on peace and space. And there is an outer space treaty, which was initiated in the late 60s, also with America as one of the founding initiators. And the purpose of that outer space treaty was to make sure that there is no war proliferation in space. It was done for a reason. Humankind is imperfect, and in this imperfection, it also wages wars. Space, according to the Outer Space Treaty, is a resource which belongs to the entire humankind. And Asgardia, the first in the world history space nation founded by Dr. Igor Ashurbeli, is standing for peace, access, and
what are you going to do when you get into space?
We will peacefully settle low Earth platform, low orbital platforms, and eventually we will settle on the moons. On the moon. This is the current vision.
Okay, so you guys are going to settle and procreate and live on the moon, and you don't want America to protect your security. I just feel like it's a little risky because, you know, the Russians might go out there and start shooting lasers, and the aliens might come out there and start trying to take over. I just think you're a little misguided. You might need the Space Force to watch your back.
I think, Jesse, you're playing with semantics, because we are here not debating the need of being safe and protected and secure. What you're trying to debate is the need to draw the weapons into space. And these are separate discussions. When you are building a car which is safe for driving, you're not building a car which shoots people. You are building in safety features. Okay. This is completely different.
Well, there's a difference between a car and a tank. And in war, I'd rather have a tank than a Corvette. Lena, I got to run. Thank you very much. And good luck out there. Still ahead, Waters World Quiz is back. And it's a doozy. But first, Diamond and Silk. One more time for members of the left crossing a line this week, harassing Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen while she was dining at a Mexican restaurant on Tuesday. The activists were protesting Trump's immigration policy, and if that wasn't enough, now comes word one of the activists is an employee for the Department of Justice. Joining me now, Diamond and Silk. I mean, I think Kirsten's doing the right thing in the midst of this border situation by dining at a Mexican restaurant.
Yes, she is. And she also explained the process which people should go by. But what I find appalling is hecklers heckling her and disturbing her while she eats. Where is the women rights movement to protect her? Because she have a right to eat in that restaurant without anyone disturbing her. Why was the restaurant allowing this to go on? Somebody should be sued for this. And if these hecklers want to heckle somebody, how about going up there, heckle the Democrats in Congress who won't come to the table to solve this problem?
That's right. That's right. They could have come to the table right at that Mexican restaurant and maybe hashed out the details. I think Kirsten should have taken her margarita and tossed it in the face of that, Justice Department employee. I can't believe she still has a job as of today.
That's right.
But you know what? These people, they're allowed to run wild, and there's no sanction in the
It could not
federal
have been
government.
Diamond and Silk.
They
It
better be
couldn't.
glad it wasn't Diamond and Silk.
No, baby.
Oh, there would have been tacos flying all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of protesters, there was an incident at one of the Trump rallies this week when some, I guess, man got a little rowdy, and here's what the president had to say.
We have a single protester. There he goes. Goodbye, darling. He's going home to his mom. Say hello to mommy. And tomorrow, the fake news will say tomorrow, massive protests at the Trump rally. One person. Massive protests. Ay, ay, ay. Was that a man or a woman? Because he needs a haircut more than I do.
Classic.
Listen, okay, first of all, when you come as the little lone wolf trying to protest in front of all of those thousands upon thousands of people, please make sure we can identify you, because we didn't know whether that was a man, a woman, or a wolf. We didn't know. So I don't fault the president for saying what he's saying, and stop trying to protest. Maybe if you stand there, open up your ears, you can learn something from this president.
Or buy some clippers.
Yes.
Yeah, not a very good undercover disguise going into a Trump rally with a man bun. I mean, the security should have known what they were dealing with at the gate. Okay, you guys heard the last segment with the Space Force protester.
Yes.
Do you? I think she doesn't understand the gravity of the situation.
I don't think she understands the gravity of the situation, and she don't understand that people could think she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get what she's trying to do here. I think that she's leaned so far to the left that she's falling off a cliff. I understand that she wants to live in space, but I think she should think things out and think them all the way through before she just start talking about stuff.
Yes, right. She has literally fallen off the face of the earth. Lastly, ladies, I heard you guys have a movie coming out. Am I invited to the premiere?
Oh, absolutely.
Most definitely.
So everything is going to be released this fall, and it's called Dummycrats.
That's right.
We found that the president is doing a great job draining the swamp. Now it's time for us to expose the swamp.
That's right.
And what we want to do is expose the hypocrisy, especially among these Dummycrats in Congress, especially the ones that always arguing, always bickering about nothing, and then they get mad with a sitting president for following the law, the same law that a previous president followed.
Right. So make sure that you go to dummycratsthemovie.com to stay tuned for what's coming up.
All right, the ladies coming to a theater near you. Up next, Waters World hits the streets for a classic current events quiz. You know, I used to do a lot of Waters World quizzes, and I used to hit the streets and ask all kinds of ridiculous questions. I stopped doing it for a little while because it was cold. And, I'm spoiled now, but I hear from you. People have been complaining I'm not doing the quizzes anymore. So I went back to Union Square in New York City. You know the drill. Who is the vice president?
I don't know, and I really don't care.
Oh, oh my God. Oh man.
Can I give you a hint?
You can tell me.
Mike
Bloomberg.
He wishes.
That offended me.
Mr. Pence. Who is the leader of North Korea?
What's that guy's name? Jang something. What is his name? Mingyao something.
Kim Jong-woo?
Kim Jong-un.
Donald Trump just met Kim Jong-un at a summit.
Yes.
Where was that?
In Japan? No, in China.
Washington, D.C.? Or Korea? Or he went across. He went overseas to meet him. Not exactly sure where.
Name one state that borders Canada.
Ohio?
New York City. Massachusetts?
North Carolina.
Not California, right?
I was gonna say Delaware. That's completely wrong. Michigan.
Excellent. What does Congress do?
I really don't know. They just try to pass bills that the president wants.
Up the world.
I'm going to give that one to you.
Yeah.
What does the CIA stand for?
That I do not know.
I'm gonna guess like Constitution, but I'm gonna guess that that's wrong.
That's wrong.
Something like something agency. I don't know.
Central Intelligence Agency.
There it is.
I love those guys, man.
You do?
Yeah, those guys are cool. Yeah, they got some serious skills, man.
Who was the first person to set foot on the moon?
David Wright.
That was the baseball player.
The moon's done. There's not even a Walmart there. Who cares?
Well, that could be a conspiracy theory. I don't know if anyone actually stepped foot on the moon.
I don't believe that is true.
Well, there was video of the moon landing.
There is? Let me see the video.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Neil Armstrong?
Excellent. Do you know who I am?
Nope.
I'm Waters, and this is my world.
This is your world, man. That's a lot to deal with. I'm used to being on the other side of it in some way or another, I think.
Yeah, I can tell.
Cute.
Oh, God. So I'll be back out there a little bit more this summer asking ridiculous questions, so you guys have that to look forward to. But up next, another thing to look forward to, last call.
They call me Jane.